Hello, my name is Dale Culver. I'm the Design Review Coordinator for Pine Canyon Village Association. I'm here today to introduce John Sather, who's an architect planner who's working with us to update our design review guidelines to make it easier to plan your home going forward.
Thank you, Dale. What we're going to do today is really give you some highlights on the new design guidelines that we've issued in September and really help you with your process of going through design review and make it really a pleasurable experience for you as you create your new home. What we'd like to do today is to really give you a little bit more of an in-depth overview of the design guidelines that we updated and reissued in October of 2019. When we reissued these, we didn't begin from our complete rewrite. What we did was really tried to redraft them and bring them into a new era, answer some of the questions that have been coming up in the community as it relates to various components of construction and design, and really make the process much more easy for you as buyers, owners to go through, because the purpose of the design guidelines is really to create a fine community. Secondarily, what we're hoping is that we create a really pleasurable experience for you as you go through and build and design your new home. One of the constants is the overall philosophy of Pine Canyon. We didn't want to change where we began early on. We wanted to continue and refine it, but really stay the course. What we're really trying to do is create one of the finest communities of our time, based here in the beautiful ponderosa pine forests of Flagstaff, and make the homes as they interact with each other a constant flow, so that not one home stands out, but they all really compose together, and we let the forest, the trees, really become part of the overall composition and never overwhelm them. So in that overall philosophy, one of the things that we have introduced here is wanting to improve on the quality of the architecture and how we speak about architecture. We've introduced the idea of what we call elements of composition. So those who are not trained architects may find that word fuzzy or that phrase fuzzy and not quite understand it. But what we're looking for is really language that speaks to your designers, your architects, as they understand design. So terms like balance, shade, shadow, scale, the appropriateness of it to its site integration. These are now all points that have been integrated into the design guidelines, so that in the end, what we're creating is a community that is the finest collection of mountain homes of our time. So as we go forward, we have really updated various versions of the guidelines, and various chapters within the guidelines. We have looked at them. We have asked questions to the architects, to the builders, so that we can really answer some of the questions that have been maybe stumbling blocks in the past, all towards trying to make it a little bit more understandable for everyone and really create a document that is what we call a living document. So what we've done is put this on the website, so it's all interactive. We have taken the guidelines and illustrated them with a lot of the examples of the really fine details, the fine quality that we're getting here at Pine Canyon, and made it really part of the design guidelines, so that as you go through the process, there may be details and things that can be referred to and used as examples that will simply help you through the process. We use the term a living document because from time to time there will be other updates, and all of that is really helping to make the process more understandable and really minimize any confusion that builders, architects, designers, homeowners would have throughout this. One of the other things that brought us to this transition of updating the design guidelines is we're in an era now where the term contemporary mountain or mountain contemporary architecture is really beginning to be part of the architectural vocabulary more and more than, say, it was 10 years ago. When Pine Canyon started, the style was defined as really mountain traditional design. So the steeper roofs, the heavy overhangs, lots of use of stone, heavy timber is what have made many of the fine early homes at Pine Canyon what they are. But as time goes on and tastes change, there seems to be a lot of desire to weave in more contemporary detail, cleaner lines, finer use of other materials, much more integrated detailing that brings us closer and closer to more what we're calling mountain contemporary design. So we've created a community, a neighborhood within Pine Canyon, Walnut Canyon, where we have designated it as a collection of homes that really can be either mountain traditional or full-on mountain contemporary designs. So it's a community where those styles of architecture will live together. As we come out of Walnut Canyon and we come into the rest of Pine Canyon, we're looking at probably pure contemporary design not being very appropriate as it mixes in with some of the older homes here, some of the home buyers who had expected a more mountain traditional home as their adjacent neighbor. So we created another style that we're calling mountain transitional. So we have mountain traditional, mountain transitional contemporary, and mountain contemporary. Three styles will now define the architectural styles allowed here at Pine Canyon. The mountain traditional style is one you all well know. It's the one that started here at Pine Canyon. And then as we weave into the mountain transitional contemporary, what we're looking for there and what many of the homeowners have been asking is, can I weave in, can I design in a few more contemporary lines into our architectural composition? Can we still have the gable roofs or the hip roofs or the Dutch clipped roofs, but maybe mix those in with a minor elements of flat roofs, broader forms of glass in window systems, and maybe some cleaner details in the use of steel. So that is really why we created that style. But as we go into Walnut Canyon, there has been a request by many buyers that we have really full-on mountain contemporary design. So in mountain contemporary design, you're seeing a lot of flat roofs, you're seeing a lot of shed roofs, you're seeing the use of steel paneling in the siding, you're seeing very accomplished forms of cast-in-place concrete. So those are all elements that we embrace, but we think that they will live together best in one neighborhood as opposed to trying to put them into some of the more established neighborhoods between, say, two mountain traditional homes. So that is a style that we embrace here, Mountain Contemporary, and have designated Walnut Canyon as its home. As we began work on the updated design guidelines, we began to ask ourselves some questions. As we toured the existing homes, there were some details, some use of materials and things that to some degree seemed out of place, that perhaps when the home is now completed, we would ask, is that something we would do again? So we've really taken an inventory of a lot of the existing homes, and there are some things that we would not do again. What we look at is every lot at Pine Canyon is different, and every project is a one of a kind. So we are looking at each submission individually. and analyzing it from its specific site conditions, its adjacency to other homes, whether they exist or ones that we know are being designed. So there are going to be situations where there are things that you might, as an owner or a buyer, wish maybe you could have, or wonder, why am I not allowed to do that? All I would do is refer back to the updated guidelines and work within those various styles that are defined in there. And at that point, we think it will all generally work its way out. There will be times that we have to make judgments individually, and it will be really based on the dynamics and the situation of the specific lot itself. One of the things that we want to reinforce is we have created what we think is a very logical process for the design review process, because our goal is to make this a very pleasurable experience. You're building a home, and perhaps it's the home of your dream, and we want that to be an experience that you will enjoy from beginning to end. So we have created the process of various steps. They pretty much track how architects and designers are designing a home, and we have review steps at each of that, so that you're not going too far, and we would perhaps pull you back with things that we don't feel are appropriate. But the one and probably the most important step of the whole process is the pre-design conference. This is really the conference that kicks the whole process off. It's one where you will be joined by one of the design review coordinators or committee members on your site with your architect, hopefully your builder. Sometimes your builder will not be chosen at that time, but at least your architect. Walking the lot, talking about the existing trees within the envelopes, looking at the setbacks, looking at the specifics of the site as it relates to drainage. How does water come into your site? How will it leave it? What's the condition at the edge of the road? All the things that make your site unique. And then we'll talk through the process with you so that there's clarity. And at that point, you can also share with us any thoughts that you have had already. Usually when someone buys their lot, they start dreaming. So we want to understand and share in those dreams so that we can help you get to where you want. And you begin to go down the path of one of the three styles. If your home is in Walnut Canyon and you choose to have a mountain contemporary house, we can begin to talk about the details of that. If you're not within Walnut Canyon, you're in the bulk of Pine Canyon, other of the more established neighborhoods, we can begin to talk through the details of maybe the original mountain traditional style that began here at Pine Canyon, or this transitional style, the mountain transitional contemporary style. And what does that mean to you on this lot? So after we've had that conference and we've been able to really answer any of your questions, you as owners, as buyers, and your architect will begin work in creating the first submittal package, the preliminary design submittal, which has the requirements generally of floor plans, site plans, elevations, and all of that is detailed in a convenient link on the online set of guidelines. So that is, your forms are there, your application forms and your submittal forms. And we just want to highlight that those are really important for the committee and for you to have in your possession, so that as you make your submittal, you know it's a full and thorough submittal, and the committee has all of its materials that it needs to make its review. So after that review, and you've heard back from the committee, then you begin your final design process, which is now your much more thorough set of construction documents, where you're now into your framing plans and your more detailed roof plans, and certainly a lot of your refined details. So once again, the link for that submittal list is online, and you should get together with your team, your architect, your builder at that time, and just begin to be certain that you have all of that in order to make a full submittal, once again, so the committee has what it needs, and it simply will make the process much more enjoyable. Then after that, we begin to go through the series of the building permits, the on-site pre-construction conference with the contractor. So a little bit like when we have the pre-design conference, we want to have a similar kind of conference with the builder. So he understands the building regulations that apply during construction, and all that is clear. And then there'll be a review, kind of an overseeing during construction by members of the committee, and then ultimately your post-construction review, so that we're just simply reviewing that, yes, in fact, this house was built according to what was approved, and at that point we're then complete with the process. So the goal is not to put you through some kind of very laborious process, but to really be certain that all owners, all lots are treated fairly and equally, so that the same kind of review that you have gone through, you can be assured that the properties on either side of you or ones in your view shed are really put through that same process, so that you know that the quality that you have put into your beautiful home can be assured of the other homes that surround you, and once again, make for a beautiful community of some of the finest architecture of our time. One of the more detailed but new components of the design guidelines is the need to submit what we call a grading and drainage plan for your property. And this would need to be prepared by a licensed civil engineer and stamped. But what we're finding as we continue to evolve the community is really the need for watching how water flows from lot to lot, and being certain that it is handled in a correct way, but more importantly, that it's handled in a beautiful way, so that a grading and drainage plan may alter the way your property drains now, but what we want is that it be a very naturalized look, so that if you have what we would call a drainage swale, that it not just be a carved out dirt ditch, but it's really a beautiful part of your landscape, naturalized back into the existing topography that is there. So once again, this is really all for your own protection, for your property's protection, but also so that we really understand how water flows from lot to lot and from the road itself. As I said earlier, one of our goals is to really make this a pleasurable experience. And as we do that, we understand that when you're under construction, perhaps it's a Saturday afternoon and you've come up to see your home, there are things that occur to you that you might want to change during construction from what has previously been approved. Very common things are, oh, I forgot a view out of that area would frame that mountain view, or perhaps we want our windows larger, or I want to add this, or I want to add a deck here, or whatever. One of the things that will make that really more pleasant for everyone to go through is just submit that change. Have your architect or even your builder sketch something up that shows that change, and submit it to the design review before you actually build it. And we understand that when a house is under construction, really time is of the essence. So we will respect that and try to give you a quick review of those kind of things. And that will just make this post-construction period, when we come and review the house and see if it's in compliance with what was approved, just much more easy, because we will have approved those changes as we go. And we certainly embrace that, because things occur to you just like it would with a sculptor of, oh, why don't we have the window here? Or why don't we change this here? Why don't we interact with those trees? Those are all things that will make your home better, and we embrace. We just want to keep up with that in the review process. one of our styles, the mountain transitional contemporary, that I'd just like to highlight a little bit more. So this is our style that we see generally in the areas of Pine Canyon where there might be existing mountain traditional homes. And what we're really trying to do is give you the opportunity in that to blend in a few more contemporary details. But once again, the overall composition would be veering more towards mountain traditional, but you're transitioning a little bit more contemporary. So when we look at this, early on, the Design Review Committee would like to talk with you in the pre-design conference about it, if in fact that's where some of your thinking has been going. But more importantly, what we really want in it is an analysis of the adjacent properties, because we want this to really blend in to the existing homes that are most likely mountain traditional, and be certain that that flow is not abrupt, that your home doesn't stand out, that it really gives you those cleaner lines, but still respects those neighbors. So our process, as you read the guidelines, puts a little bit more emphasis on that in the review process, and a little bit more focus on the specific details of that, so that it doesn't veer too much towards our mountain contemporary, which once again is really only living within our Walnut Canyon neighborhood. One of our goals is really to have you look at the guidelines in total. There are certain specific paragraphs in there that may refer to heights or things like that. That is not how we're really reviewing it. We are reviewing that from a technical standpoint to be certain those. But what we're really referring back to, and go to the beginning of the guidelines where we talk about the elements of composition, is we're really looking at the total composition. Is this a beautiful home? Does this fit with the land? Does the land and the house become one? Does it fit within the context of the neighborhood? So we look at all of these together, and it was why we put into our philosophy in this new iteration of the guidelines these elements of composition, because they highlight that this really is a holistic look at the design, not just a specific that this height or that return or that length of the ridge have been judged. We're really looking at, is this a beautiful piece of architecture? One of the things I'd like to say just in closing is what we feel is the importance of reading the design guidelines beginning to end. As owners, you're probably looking at a document like that and saying, well, my architect can read that. I would just encourage you to read it, maybe briefly, and have your architect and builder read it in more detail. But it really does answer all of the questions. For instance, if you were to add a fireplace later, or you want to put a new window in, it's not really remodeling your own house, but those are all things that the review process wants to approve, because what we're really trying to do is be certain that all the architecture of the homes are understood, are reviewed, and in compliance with the guidelines, so that you can be assured that what you have built, that same standard is applied to all of your neighbors. And so by reading the guidelines in depth, it will just help in your understanding of our goals, our philosophy, and once again, making the whole process much more enjoyable for you as you build your home.